cold snap was approaching, but there was a few days to prepare. On top of the other things, such as building for an ever-increasing population. It was at this point the leader of Sanctuary decided to redirect the scout party south of its position, and also delay the steelworks, and reallocating any that could be spared to completing its construction, or rather completing the construction of an additional heat zone through another steam hub, although other structures would be needed. Structures such as tents for the next wave of refugees, although a workshop would also be useful, which is why engineers were reallocated from other places of work. So that they could increase the amount of research done. And speaking of research, the hothouse was most appealing by this point, and so that was worked on next. As for the medical situation, that was a problem. A problem that would need to be remedied before it got out of hand. Meanwhile, the location of the pub was decided on. Along with the care house. Quite surprising that, of all of those I've read about, they don't make promises that they can't deliver on. Although, why there's no path connected, or rather was connected to the pub, that I was unsure of. although more tents were needed. As the next wave of refugees was approaching. Construction was coming along nicely. And the paths to all the buildings in the northeast would soon be connected. Although there was still that problem. A problem with the gravely ill. Better medical facilities were needed. When the resources could be afforded to have it constructed, or even developed in the workshops. Well, there would be workshops, plural, quite soon. As for the hothouse, that could be constructed as well. She just had to work out where to put the steam hub in order to have enough heat for it to, well, function properly. Although it was a bit too far away. Well, I thought it was a bit too far away from the trees for the sawmill, but she apparently didn't think so. There was not enough wood to develop the coal mine. The sawmill could be improved, although there was something else. Heaters. They would be most useful for places of work, especially with the growing cold. Worse than what occurred before. It would also it also provides more time for gathering resources. For something that would be needed much more. And there were more refugees to rescue. Although the location needed to be known, which was given by one of those within the group of refugees that arrived. The next day, research would be faster. And that would be most welcome. Considering how slow it had been. As for the construction of the hothouse, that would wait until the steam hub was completed in the west. The scouts were redirected to where one group of refugees needed rescuing. White Pass. A place that sounds rather ominous, does it not? Considering what's the dominant colour. Oh, and the people were hopeful due to the care house being completed in time. And what is next, you might ask? The pub is... Yes, the pub was completed. And there was great hope, and not as much discontent after that. Yes, just what the people needed. A place to achieve a strong state of mental incompetence through inebriation. Don't ask me how it works, I'm not a brewer. As long as it doesn't cause trouble and keeps the people from turning against each other, that's all that matters to me. And it was all that mattered to her as well. I wouldn't be surprised if this woman was one of the nicer members of the management of a workhouse. considering that she had no problems with children working in safe jobs, but didn't want them to work on all the jobs. It was at this point that she decided to have another medical post built, as 2 were clearly not enough. It would mean that 2 would be 2 of those that could work were out of action until better medical facilities were developed. But it's better than them dying. Or worse, needing amputation. White Pass had those that needed rescuing, which meant that any supplies that could be gathered could wait, because lives were clearly more important. Certainly to her. And I understand perfectly. The hothouse was operating well, and a surplus was building of food. The sawmill would not be running out of wood anytime soon, although the sawmill to the west, I meant. Oh yes, and the heaters were completed. As for what to work on next, that would be... Now this was a difficult decision. In the end, though, she decided on a wall drill to provide a more long-term supply of wood. Although, in the more immediate future, steel would be needed. And another gathering post was constructed near the... Oh yes, and a note of thanks was sent by one of the gravely ill. A gathering post was built near the western coal vumber to gather more coal. Something which would be needed. although there were some doubts regarding the steam hub near the steelworks being close enough. As for one of the sawmills planned for, well, one of the sawmills was dismantled to make way for another medical post. Something which was desperately needed. Considering well, in preparation for the next population surge, more tents were built. As for the next law, it would appear that laws regarding adaptation, at least those that mattered, were all made, so the purpose was decided. A neighborhood watch with watchtowers. It seems that she has a similar attitude towards order that I do. This should be interesting. And she's even considering creating a heat zone to the south. Well, any excuse to gather those wood piles that had been left ungathered. It would also mean more space for other things. Meanwhile, preparations were made for the wall drill. By making a path, road, whatever you want to call it, that led to it. This is so that when the wall drill research gets completed, there would be a heat zone ready for it. Workers would be needed in the steelworks. Although not quite yet, considering that the heat zone did not reach far enough. that was something that needed to be remedied. And it reached far enough to where a second one could be built at the same time. How convenient. Although the wall drill would need to wait until the next day before it could be built, as the research was incomplete. If there is one commonality between our city and Sanctuary, is that the engineers prefer not to leave a task half-finished. My reaction to that would be, I should hope not. At least 2 watchtowers were needed to help establish order. Time would tell if she would be like me and moderate it, or be more like one of those that led Winterhome before that happened. And that power corrupts. Well, it's too early to tell from this point. By this point, It would seem that the people that arrive need to build their accommodation in Sanctuary before they could use it. Now, why am I thinking of Sweden? That puzzles me. Oh well. At least there's more to allocate around the different workplaces. It was at this point that Lord Craven, the one whom those boats were meant for, was revealed to have given the order to shoot at them. Disgusting, isn't it? Someone who would rather see them dead than free. Why did I have the feeling that he would live long enough to regret that decision? Sue was not popular with the people of Sanctuary. Unfortunately, it would be necessary until more food gathering facilities were constructed. Although the news of Lord Craven coming to them was alarming.